Welcome to another episode of Kai-Zen Consciousness. Today's topic is going to explore what is known as self-talk. Welcome, Ehnes here. This is Kai-Zen Consciousness, where you can learn to master your life from the inside out. The pinnacle work for self-talk was done by Shad Helmstetter. What to say when you talk to yourself. That's the title of his work. So what is self-talk? It's what we say to ourselves all day long. It's this internal dialogue. So the question really is, how kind are you and how berating are you in your self-talk? Let's take an example. Let's say you're driving somewhere and you take a wrong turn. And you can't really turn around really easily. So it's going to take you a little bit of distance, which means you have to make up all that distance coming back. What do you say to yourself? Do you curse yourself out? Do you say that you could have done better? Do you constantly belittle yourself? So this is what I want you to pay attention to with self-talk. What Helmstetter proposes in his book is that the way we talk to ourselves will ultimately give us the amount of fulfillment we're going to be able to achieve. The amount of negativity that we say to ourselves is probably pretty self-evident. Take a look at how you talk to yourself during the day. It's those quiet moments. Again, if you have time, maybe write some of this down so that you really get, just for once, a detailed look at how you actually treat yourself. The thinking is this: how you treat yourself is probably indicative of how you think other people should treat you, which in turn is then how you treat them. So let's practice some things that we can say to ourselves that are going to be positive. So positive towards ourselves, positive of how we think others should talk to us, and positive of how we then interact with them. Kindness and compassion. Let's practice saying those things to ourselves. So let's say you drop something onto your foot and it really hurt. Instead of having this dance where you cuss yourself out and you call yourself names, maybe you can just sit back and say, okay, I need to take a deep breath. I value my body. I value that I did this to my body. Maybe I should take it a little bit slower. Maybe I shouldn't do so many things at once. So now comes the positive. I'm grateful for my body. I am grateful for how I treat my body. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn how to treat my body. Compassion. Compassion in this case means that you are kind on a human level to yourself. You are a human being. You know you make mistakes. You know that things are going to go wrong. But when they happen, that reaction ought to be compassionate. You ought to be kinder to yourself. So gentleness, compassion, love, empathy, those are the ways that we should set the context for how we speak to ourselves. The next way that we should practice speaking to ourselves is with intention. Intention is what sets the tone. I've spoken of this in other videos, and it remains true even now in something called self-talk. If our self-talk is intentional, I'm going to do this, I can do this, that's forward-moving energy. That's not negative, that's not debilitating, that is not degrading, that's empowering. That's energy that moves us towards a specific goal. It would imply that we should actually try to set up mini goals, very small things, those baby steps. With those baby steps, we can practice this kind, intentionalized, compassionate self-talk. Because on these baby steps and on this positivity, we can build to have a much better day, which then leads to a better couple of days, better week, etc., etc. So intentionalize, use small goals, and build positively on those small goals in your self-talk. Another way to practice self-talk is to see if you can make the language come from your heart. Heart-centered language, God language, spirit language, compassionate language. It's language that melts. It's language that diffuses. It's language that empowers. When you get frustrated, instead of all this negative talk, instead of all this frustrating talk, rock back into your heart space. That heart space speaks. It speaks to you. Remember, you didn't have to work for your heart. It was given to you. It's a gift. So there must be some purpose in its language as well. It's to move the whole system forward. So heart-centered the coherence between mind and heart. So if we can center and rock back into that heart with our language of compassion, gentleness, kindness, that will set our thoughts onto the right track. There's a quote that says, constant self-judgment is intolerable. So picture that throughout the day, all the negative things you say are self-judgment. They're judgmental onto yourself. So you're coming from a place that is putting you yourself down. All you have to do is reverse this. You can speak to yourself through empowerment. This empowerment becomes something that then builds exponentially. It builds by saying, I'm going to be kind to myself. That, in turn, lets us view how we think other people should look at us. If I am kind to myself, then I would like other people to be kind to me, to think kindly towards me. In doing this, it now sets up that I'm also going to be kind to them. And this creates that circle. And all of a sudden, that circle doesn't simply go around and round, it actually goes round and round and it spirals on up. And that'll be a topic for another video, but that is where it begins. It begins with how we talk to ourselves. Self-talk is absolutely one of those things that lets you know what your outlook on all of life really is. If you do anything, how do you speak to yourself? I would like for you to actually try and do the inventory. That means take a day and put into your journal, into your log, somewhere, all the things you say to yourself, how you say to them. Take an inventory. It's got to start somewhere. So you got to see where you are so that where you want to be, you can then close that gap. That's how we live life. So take a look, see what your self-talk is, see what improvements you can point to. So thanks for watching another episode of Kai-Zen Consciousness, where the possibilities are endless.